On today's episode of Watch JR Go, we are back for more of my Jag because you guys can't seem to get enough of it, and there were so many comments saying, please don't give up. So today, we're gonna dig a little bit deeper, and we're gonna find out if it's the problem that I think it is at this point, and the one that a lot of you guys think it is at this point, or if it's something completely different and much easier to fix. So let's jump in. What is going on, guys? I am Watch JR Go, and this behind me is my 1999 Jag XJ8 that I bought for $1,000. It had been sitting for 16 years since a car dealership abandoned it, and what we found was a car that was in pretty rough shape, even though it looked amazing. It looked like it was fresh out of the box. It only has 75,000 miles on the car. So we jumped in and we started troubleshooting the fuel system, because a fuel system that's been sitting for that long, you can bet it's in bad shape. And we quickly found out the fuel pump was locked up, there was zero fuel in the fuel rails, and the tank had quite a bit of garbage in it after we got the thing open. And to get the thing open, that was an entire nightmare in and of itself. Feel free to jump back and watch that video, but if you want to get the tank out of an XJ8 or an XJR from this era, the fuel lines come out of the bottom of the car like this. There's two little angled lines inside of a big foam housing that you can't get inside, that is directly above the pumpkin of the diff that you can't get your hand into. So they worked very hard to make sure it was hard to service. If you're on a two-post lift, you can drop the diff, the rear subframe, and you can get at it, or you can do what I ended up doing. What a lot of the Jag forums recommend in that is cutting two little flaps in the package shelf back there behind the seats. I had to remove the entire back seat and the leather covering that, and then I cut the package shelf with a Sawzall. You can use that or a cut-off wheel. Either one will work great. And then I was able to pull out the evap assembly on top of the tank, unbolt the pump that's at the bottom of the tank. It's literally bolted on, one of the craziest things I've ever seen. And that let me change the pump, and we got that working. We got fuel into the engine and it fired as you would expect, and I thought we were home free, but we were so far from home free. Yesterday, I hit the old Jag with the next step, according to the Jag forums, and that was pulling the plugs out and spoon feeding some oil into the combustion chamber. It turns out there was already plenty of oil going into the combustion chambers because the valve covers leak, and I honestly think the valve covers have been pulled off and this thing's been looked at, and then it was put all the way back together, and that's where it sat, abandoned forever. Because I think we're going to find today what somebody else found, at least, whenever it got parked 16 years ago, and at that point they decided that this car was not worth fixing. So today we get to decide if this car is worth fixing or not. Now, where we're at in the car, we've got $1,000 in it and about $110 in the fuel pump, and of course a $200 battery went into this car. So if we decide to bail on it, the battery's coming out and somebody can put their own battery in this thing and keep right on working. It will be a great car for somebody at some point. It's a clean title. It'll be an amazing car. The leather's beautiful, the interior's beautiful, everything works. I got the power antenna running, the power windows work. The only thing I really haven't tried is the sunroof, and you can believe I'm not gonna try that. And we've got kind of everything else sorted, working, heated seats work, power mirrors work, every single thing in the car works. Kind of incredible for a car this old with British electronics. After yesterday's testing, spoon feeding that engine some oil, it sounded like it was a lot healthier. It sounded like it was gonna run, but we got the same result. The engine starts and it dies after a second or 2 seconds. So I don't think it's an immobilizer, but everybody wants me to try, so right out of the gate, we're gonna try the Immobilizer. So I only have this one key. I didn't get any other keys with the car. I don't have the remote. I do think it has a remote because there's a receiver hiding back there by the battery. It says 315 megahertz on it. That is, of course, one of the main frequencies for TPMS and for your remote transmitter. They're usually combined. So I bet this thing had a remote. I don't have it. People are saying the next thing to do to get the Immobilizer to clear on this thing, which there's no security light on, I'm almost guaranteeing this thing is not an Immobilizer issue. They say to take the key, put it in the door, lock it, unlock it, and then try to start the car. Let's do it. The other thing I want to test is if the windows roll up and down, so. Oh, it's so sick! All the windows roll down! Okay. All the windows roll up! This car is awesome. I almost hate to get rid of this car, but wow. The windows are perfectly matching. It does have an alarm. If you hear that every time I lock and unlock it, it definitely has an alarm. Fuel pump prime. No security light on. None at all. It didn't even try. Before we dive too much farther into this, I need to take a second to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Kemikoto Knives. Kemikoto makes great Japanese steel kitchen knives using traditional techniques from Japan. Kemikoto builds on the legacy of over 800 years of Japanese technology and expertise in creating the steel to make these meticulously handcrafted knives. We've actually been using these knives for quite a while now, cooking with them, and I got to fulfill a lifelong goal of cutting things in half in midair. These are amazing, as you just saw. The only thing I've ever wanted to test with a knife is if I can throw the thing in the air that needs cut and just chop it in half. So that's what we're gonna try right now. I'm gonna chuck this tomato up and try to just yeet it through the air, and if it cuts, I'd say it's highly successful. It worked! Look at that! Look at that! I just threw it in the air and cut it! All right, we gotta do one more. What? This knife is incredible! Look at this! Kemikoto has several special offers going on right now, and they're offering my viewers an extra $50 off any purchase by going to kemikoto.com/watchjergo and picking up your own set of these awesome knives today. And yes, I do play Fruit Ninja in real life and cook with these things and then put them back in this ash wood box when I'm done with them, just because it's super nice. So again, kemikoto.com/watchjergo, link in the description below. Huge thank you to Kemikoto for sponsoring today's video and continuing to support automotive creators like me. Now, let's jump back in. So I checked the Immobilizer off the list for you guys. Clearly the alarm activated, deactivated, it did everything it was supposed to do. I love the power windows running like they're supposed to too. One down. The next one is fuel. And I think we've got plenty of fuel. In fact, I can smell a little bit of it after cranking it right there. It's definitely blasting fuel into the cylinders. I don't think it's an injector issue. It hits on every cylinder when it tries to come to life. So that rules that out immediately. Now, I do think it could be the fuel filter and a fuel volume issue, but it would still run a little bit longer, especially when I'm like feathering the throttle while cranking it. So I don't think we're at the fuel pump or the fuel filter. In fact, we're gonna put the entire back of the thing back together because we know the pump's working. And we have pressure. We tested that in another video. We've got a solid 55 pounds while cranking, which is even more than this car actually needs. 45 is the reference, so it's just fine. We got plenty of fuel pressure. And we've hooked the MAF back up. I've used electrical tape to try to seal up all of the intake leaks on this thing. Yes, it is missing the rubber piece that should go around the intake body here. That is just absolutely gone. So much stuff is gone. Like somebody has taken this thing all apart, and just lots of little factory pieces that are pretty important are missing. Camshaft position sensor, we thought that might be an issue because it's throwing a code for it, but it's there and it's hooked up. And it's not low circuit or anything like that. It's not an open circuit. Those aren't the codes we're getting from the camshaft position sensor. We're getting circuit malfunction, which usually means it's a reading that doesn't agree with the crankshaft position sensor. This basically only uses two sensors to manage this engine. Obviously, MAF, intake, air temp, those are all important. Coolant temp uses that for enrichment. You guys probably understand all of that, but this is a very simple engine. Crankshaft position sensor, camshaft position sensor, and if they agree, the engine should run. So this thing should be very simple, and it will not run at all. 2 seconds and it dies. 2 seconds and it dies. And it doesn't always run. That's the other thing, is sometimes it doesn't start. So we don't always have the luck we have where it'll fire right up and run. Sometimes it'll just crank and nothing will happen. So today, we're taking the next step. I'm gonna pull all these coil packs back out over here on the driver's side. We're gonna pull the valve cover off, the leaking one over here. It's not even aligned right anyway. It's hard to get the spark plugs in and out. And we're gonna find out if another major issue with this thing, timing chain tensioners, we're gonna find out if they're any good on this engine. So there's actually an updated version. It's very expensive for this kit. It's about $700 to replace this. I'll throw it on screen right now. FCP Euro is the only place I found that actually had it in stock at the moment. They are better parts. These are the upgraded tensioners that you're buying for like $700, but that's the price of the car again. And at the end of it, I don't think there'll be much profit left in this thing at all. It's a nice car. I know they drive amazing, but I don't want to put this kind of time in it, and I really don't want to disassemble the entire front end of it here in the garage. With all of that said, let's get the valve covers off here, take a look at this and see if it's actually mechanically in time. That's the main thing we're looking for at this point. It could have jumped timing. I don't think it's off by much because it tries to run. It might have jumped a tooth, but one way or the other, we're gonna figure it out for sure right now. We've got all the bolts out of the valve cover. It's time to pull this thing off of here. Everything, oh, look at that, it just comes right off. I did not think it was gonna be that easy. Let's get this out of the way. Oh, stay. Dipstick tube somehow hits the valve covers on this thing. All right, we're in. Better not drop any of these screws. Oh no! It's even worse than we thought! This is a nightmare, boys and girls. All of our questions about this car were just answered in one fell swoop. I'm sure the Jag techs out there and those of you that have worked on this AJ26, AJ27 engine before, I'm sure you all knew instantly what happened as soon as I said, oh no. But boy, oh boy, has someone been in here before. And it's the worst kind of been in the engine. It is a completely new timing set, and the engine has never run since. It's pretty obvious, just based on, we'll try to, I guess you guys can see pretty well, but anyway, if you have this nice shiny metal, it means it's the new tensioners with the white guides, so that's very clearly brand new. The chains have zero wear on them, and the guide down in there, right there, I can touch it with my light right there. Zero wear, no oil on any of the plastics. That has all just been put on and was mistimed by whoever did this. What a cool looking cam variator. Look at this thing. It's a very simple either on or off variable valve timing setup, and that's one of the craziest looking variators I've ever seen right there. So you've got your actuator right there, oil comes in, the solenoid controls it, and that's what sets the timing right there. So it's definitely like rocking in and out of time just for a second while it tries to start. But yep, somebody tore this whole thing apart, mistimed the engine, and then put it back together and said, forget it. And I agree with that person 100%. They did a really bad job, and then they got to the end of it and tried to start it and found out that they were wrong. And they even reassembled everything wrong. There's no RTV on the front cover. You can see where the factory RTV was left in there, and they didn't put any back. Like, what are you doing? You can't put this stuff together like that. So now we all know together the rest of the story. Somebody did work on this engine, and they created their own nightmare, and either the customer obviously didn't pay, and maybe the dealership decided to buy the car to save themselves from it, and then that's how it got dumped into like a liquidation auction years later after sitting for all this time. Or maybe the customer tried this themselves and they didn't know how to time the engine. And I don't have the special tools. I don't want to have to redo somebody's botched timing job. I know it does save me $700 in chains and tensioners, but I really don't want to get in here and try to undo someone's mistakes. That is the entire story. Let's put this car all the way back together, sell it, because it's in a lot better state than it was. At least they can get fuel into it, and somebody else can jump in here. It'll probably run. Unless, you know, the valves hit the pistons, because it could be an interference engine, and then it might never run again. It might be engine time, and that could very well be why they gave up on this, because they put all this work into it, and now it's engine time. The story can just get worse and worse and worse. Oh, and of course, the last troubleshooting step you all wanted to know, are the cats clogged? I don't think they are. And I think this answered all of our questions already. We can stop. I thought this car was a ringer, and this car instead is the definition of exactly what you do not want. Good old Jags. You're guaranteed to find something interesting in there. Let's put this car back together. You know what? I think these valve cover gaskets are new. They are. But they didn't bother to put, yeah, there's no RTV on the RTV pads. And he didn't replace the wells. And the cover's cracked? Man, it's just problem after problem. Also, when I pulled these bolts out, I can't tell you how tight they were. Whoever put this together just ruined everything. If you're doing valve covers, the baby impact on 2 does wonders. And of course, start in the middle and work out. And this time, I'll try to actually line things up correctly. Oop. The driver's side of the engine is all back together. Look how pretty it is when it's not covered in dirt. Now, I did find out that whoever worked on this before kind of messed up everything. They like reorganized all the screws on the valve cover thinking they were doing it right, but the studs are supposed to be here, 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 and instead they put the studs in the four corners where they have literally no purpose. So that's pretty funny too. Just kind of everything is put together wrong. Now that I know how everything goes together in this car after taking it apart, I am finding serious issues. But I did find here on the airbox, this is the rubber piece that was missing from here. So if I put that on there, you could actually get the throttle body to seal to the intake, which would be ideal. And also they pulled out all of the inserts here and the plastic valve covers and the plastic coil cover here, and basically all of them have been over tightened and pulled out of their plastic. So I'm trying to put everything back in spots where there's actually still inserts in the plastic. That one exists, and we're trying to do the best work we can here. All right, that wraps up everything in here. Put the rest of the covers on. Ooh. One more engine cover needs thrown on, and then that's a wrap. Again, the studs are missing, so these covers don't go back on correctly. The last two pieces in the engine bay are going on right now. This one's got to kind of wiggle into place, and there's definitely another screw that's supposed to hold that on, and it's missing. And there's screws that hold this on, and they're all missing. And of course, screws that should hold this on. And you guessed it, they're all missing. Ooh, tool storage. No matter what, if you're working on your Jag, they set this thing up so you have tool storage on the side of the road. Cool, engine bay done. First time that's been closed in a few days, onto the back seat. Going in. I'm going in. I'm going in. Okay, I made it in. Now, we gotta reform all of our metal here. Make this nice again. Our flaps. We're gonna put this back like nothing ever happened. We've got the old speaker cover from, I guess, apparently they put 6x9s in here for the R, I would assume. So it would have a better system, which, I mean, that kind of makes sense. Now we got to put this big foam liner down that keeps the package shelf nice and quiet. And the third brake light goes above it. So that's how everything sits in there. And now we're ready to put our package shelf back, and we can install our third brake light and put our seats back. So we're almost there. Yep. Now we've got our package shelf reinstalled. I can finally get out of the car, which is a chore, and put the back seats in. I'm very excited to put this back together and be done crawling in and out because the seat belt's locked up once I pulled the seats forward. And just like that, the entire back seat's back together. All the fasteners are back in, package shelf is back in. We're good to go. Let's finish up the trunk and the wheel. That's it. We got about 4 bolts left in this car. We got to put the straps back on the gas tank, put in all the liners back in the trunk, and this thing is ready to roll. So I went ahead and tightened those out of our way to make it easier to work on them. Here's our bolts for the straps. And yeah, as you guys can see, there's not much left to do here. Wheels back on, ready to drop this thing on the ground. Trunk wrapped up. We need to pour one out for the Jag, unfortunately. It lived probably a great 75,000 mile life until it was catastrophically destroyed by somebody who didn't know how to follow the simple timing instructions. This isn't a very complicated engine. It is dual overhead cam, of course, but it's a 4-chain, but really, like, one of those chains is very easy. 3 of those chains are really easy, and the one that's, okay, honestly, they're all pretty easy. You just have to follow the book and line up all the marks to time this thing right, or have the tool, either one. But unfortunately, the this one was done wrong. So that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to head on over to shop.watchjaguar.com for cool shirts, not like this, and cabicota.com/watchjaguar if you want cool knives you can play Fruit Ninja with. And please like, share, subscribe, do whatever you want to do, and I will talk to you next time. That new car that showed up today, it puts this to shame.